The Colorado Avalanche shocked their fans and their locker room by trading Mikko Rantanen. Kyle Sullivan of Locked On Avalanche is here to talk about that, the impact of the trade, and where the Avs go next, coming up on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show Shaggy Von Doom himself, Kyle Sullivan. Never a dull moment in Denver for the Colorado Avalanche. Mikko Rantanen traded, shocking a lot of people. He is now a member of the Carolina Hurricanes. A decent return, but certainly not equal to Mikko Rantanen on paper. Your initial thoughts about this trade, were you as surprised as everyone else?
Yeah, and me and my co-host Chris Maselli over on Locked On Avalanche, this has been something that's, you've heard the rumbles for a couple of weeks now. And we've both kind of come to the same conclusion. How in the world do you trade Mikko Rantanen? He's going for his third or fourth year in a row with 100 points. Like, we're now in the age of the NHL where a 100-point player is something you just look at blasé. This is something expected now, where that used to be an incredible mark coming in the early 2010s. But the Avalanche managed to trade him away, which is interesting. And if you're looking for answers, you're not going to find it until probably the end of the season. Why this happened? It seems to keep coming around to a contract issue because Mikko Rantanen is a UFA at the end of the year. Seemed like there were the Avalanche side and his agent. There was apparently a canyon in between that number. And with Nathan MacKinnon for about 2 weeks being the highest paid player in the NHL, with that mark that he set, it sounded like they did not want to go over Nathan MacKinnon money, especially knowing Cale Makar is coming up at some point. They did not want to set the precedent way too high. And it sounds like that agent, who is also the same agent for Leon Draisaitl, wanted Leon Draisaitl money for Mikko Rantanen, which, for the record, he deserves. He is that good of a player. But Nathan MacKinnon, for years, took a hometown discount to stay in Colorado. You were kind of expecting something similar with Mikko, and it sounded like there was just no ground to be made up between the two sides. So the Avalanche, instead of coming away with nothing, traded him away for Marty Necas and Jack Drury.
So your thoughts on Necas and Drury, where do they fit in with the Avalanche, and what can they add to this attack here?
Now, in the two games that I've witnessed both of their contributions to the team, you can already see the spark. Drury, his uncle used to play for the Colorado Avalanche back in the day, so there's a bond there. Fans have resonated with that, and he's wearing the same 18. So everybody get that number out of your closet. That jersey is good to wear again. Necas, I'm interested. He's in this recent game against the Rangers, he hit the post probably 4 or 5 times, but he is firing that puck. He looks comfortable. And with Nathan MacKinnon, he's on the same line with Nathan MacKinnon. I like to see what that duo can look like once they can really figure out how they play. When you're comparing against Mikko Rantanen, how he played, there's a 200-foot game that Necas brings that Mikko has kind of given up on. Mikko, his nickname in Colorado was the Moose, and he plays like a moose, and he'll play when he wants to. He'll contribute when he wants to. He is one of the best players in the NHL. Most nights, he'll give you a shift here or there. He'll just kind of go through the game. That's what you get. Necas, I don't know if this is because it's new, wanting to prove himself, but he is electric, and he is really making some contributions on that power play that has been abysmal for the Avalanche as of late. He has really jolted some life in that power play.
What do you think the Avalanche will miss most about Mikko Rantanen? Not just the points, but just as a guy in the locker room, as a member of the team.
He is a goofy guy. He's he's homegrown. Like the Avalanche went out and they drafted him. He's one of there's that fondness for those guys that they drafted, like Gabe Landeskog, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, the guys that they drafted stuck with the team during like 16, 17, like the dark years where the team was abysmal and didn't go away like Matt Duchene. Like they stuck around and trusted the process, and they were rewarded a Stanley Cup in 2022. There's a fondness for those guys that they felt like they were the Colorado Avalanche. And now it's crazy to think that the time of lifting the cup was the last time you would see Rantanen, McKinnon, and Landeskog all together at the same time. And he was such a goofy presence. He's funny. He's very personable. He's always giving you a good soundbite. He was an energy guy, and he was a really good buddy to Gabe Landeskog, the captain for the Avalanche. So, yeah, you're going to miss one of the pillars of what you know as the current Avalanche. It would not be built without Mikko Rantanen.
You mentioned Gabriel Landeskog. Any hope that he's back this season or anytime in the near future?
You could take any clip that we have talked about Gabe Landeskog in the last 3 years and insert it right here, and it would be just as true as it was 3 years ago. There is Chris McFarland, general manager for the Colorado Avalanche, said in the talks of the Mikko Rantanen trade, when asked about Landeskog, he said, there is no timeline on the horizon in the near future. That's wonderful. That's what we've been hearing for quite some time. It seems like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And with this experimental knee reconstructive surgery that hasn't been attempted in the NHL, like you don't really know the recovery time and what you can really do. So they're taking it extremely careful. And I don't know when we will see him, if it's going to be the playoffs or if at all.
Here we are. We're getting closer to 4 Nations. Then you have like a 10-day break, and then maybe a few more weeks until the NHL trade deadline. Do you think the Avalanche will be active at the trade deadline? And if so, what are they willing to give up and what are they looking to add?
Well, see, that's one of the things that Chris McFarland, in his justification for making this move, was one of the things he said, this team is clearly not deep enough. If you want to go 4 rounds in the playoffs, this team has to get deeper. And with the caps of, you have Val Nichushkin still hanging out there, you have Gabe Landeskog's contract, there's a lot of contracts you have to juggle on this team. And with Mikko's contract kind of going away and Chicago retaining a big chunk of that in the trade, like you have a little bit more cap room. Yes, you expect the Avs to be active because you don't feel like this is the final version of the team. And I feel like the timing of this move was the Avalanche forcing the league into a frenzy early so you could see what's still out there, what the market looks like, and what would be available. Because as we mentioned on Locked On Avalanche with me and my co-host Chris Maselli, it's crazy that we were talking about a blockbuster trade on a Friday night and it doesn't include any of the names that we've been hearing ad nauseum out of Vancouver.
So what do you think they're looking for at this point? You mentioned depth, but more forward help, more help on the blue line. What's the goal here?
Ideally, like they have the goalie situation settled. Like when we talked at the beginning of the year, where that was always a question mark, with Wedgwood and Blackwood, they are set, probably better than they have been since Waugh in net. Like this is an incredible tandem. Goalie, check. It wouldn't hurt to probably add one more defenseman with some experience. You don't want to go too big. You don't want to go Zadorov big when it comes to like defense, because this Avalanche team is just so fast. And you don't want to go small. They have Sam Girard currently playing defense in Colorado, and he's usually the odd man out that everybody points to because he's so small. He kind of gets eclipsed in a lot of the plays that the Avalanche like to do. So I would expect maybe one more defenseman and maybe probably an additional winger, because you heard with Middlestat already in the lineup and what Necas could probably bring as a center, possibly, because he could play center. And they threw that out there. You don't know if he could be a 2-3C somewhere in there. An additional winger might help. And of course, if you listen to the show at any point in time, the rumor of Sidney Crosby to the Avs is probably, it's an everyday thing. So that's still on the table somewhere.
All right. Well, I know it will be an exciting few weeks coming up in Colorado, probably even the rest of the season. Why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they can find the podcast and where they can find you and your co-host on social media?
If you're looking for us, you can find us on Locked On Avalanche on YouTube. Just search and hit the little bell. Follow us and like us. We're there. And you can find us on all social media. Just search Locked On Avalanche, and we'll be right there.
All right. Kyle, thanks so much for joining us.
Always an honor, my friend.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Just bet $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59.